Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top Australian IT executives. I have with me today Teresa Corbin. She is the CEO of ACCAN, the Australian Communications Consumer Action Network. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alex.
Now, probably best to start off with just by asking you to give us a quick rundown of what ACCAN does, how long it's been around, and some of its achievements over the past few years.
So we've been around for about 6 years now, and we are the consumer voice on telephone, mobile and internet. And what that means is we go out and tell the government and the industry what you want about your internet and mobile services, how accessible you want them, how available you want them, and how affordable you want them.
So you have a yearly conference, and this year it's the 2015 National Conference, Dollars and Bytes, Communications Affordability Now and Tomorrow. How's the conference been going so far, and what are the main communications affordability issues that are affecting Australian consumers?
Well, it's been a great conference so far. So Dollars and Bytes is really where the conversation is at for consumers right now. Everybody wants to know what they need to do to get better value for money. So it's not just about, making sure that vulnerable consumers or low-income consumers are looked after, but how are we also all going to squeeze out better value from our mobile and our internet plans and all the difficulties we're having there. So anybody that wants to make a comment, or any researchers or any government people that are interested in affordability issues and communications are here at the conference, and the conversation is really buzzing.
And in fact, we can hear the buzzing outside now. I've managed to grab you during one of the breaks in the conference today. Now, what can then be done to ensure that all consumers have equitable access to communication services? To do a little bit of editorialising, it's clearly not just about having a few prepaid service providers offering unlimited voice or SMS, with a few gig of data thrown in. It's all about the digital divide now apparent with those who have the NBN and those who don't, and even people who have got ADSL and don't. There are people out there struggling on expensive 4G, if they can even get that, with no fixed or wireless options, and they're not in range of satellites, for example, or there's no capacity.
So that's exactly right. I mean, first of all, we've got to start with choice. Everybody wants to be able to choose the kinds of services they've got, and so we need to have a healthy marketplace with lots of different options that are competitive, so that you're not just left, if you've got hardly any money, with just the worst possible coverage or the worst possible plan that you're paying the most for calls. So having a lot of different products on the market really does help, but of course that doesn't always solve every problem. And so we have had for a number of years with Telstra having a low income measures program, but that only focuses on fixed lines, and in the future we need an expansion of that so that broadband and mobile can be included in some way, and perhaps that's by having a social tariff model at the wholesale level, or it could also be through a voucher system, and it could also be by regulating suggesting that we have a vanilla type product that all providers could provide, and then they could innovate around that. So there are lots of different models, and that's exactly what we're talking about at this conference, and trying to identify what would be the best options for the Australian marketplace.
So what barriers does affordability present for digital inclusion?
Well, there are enormous challenges, and one of the things that's been highlighted this morning is that whilst more and more people are getting connected, the people that aren't connected, so the 1 million or so Australians that are still not connected to the internet, are likely to not adopt the internet for a number of reasons. One of them being cost, one of them being lack of interest, perhaps complexity and not understanding. So there is a mix and a multiplicity of issues as to why people are not adopting, and affordability is absolutely in there as one of them. And so we need to understand that before we actually start to design some of the solutions to the problem.
Sure, and we're even seeing, and I'm not asking for any political comment, we're even seeing people like Dyson Hayden not able to use email, has to have other people to do it. I'm sure he can afford the internet, no problems at all, but having technological literacy is a key factor in the 21st century, and if people haven't got access to the internet, they're living a very disconnected life.
And that's the truth. So we talk about the digital divide. Whilst it's narrowing, the truth is that the actual importance of being connected is actually increasing. So now it's more essential than ever to be connected.
So what else has been covered at the ACCAN conference today, and what, perhaps this afternoon, and what do you have in store for tomorrow?
So today we've talked a bit about the real experiences of consumers. So from homeless consumers to young consumers to small businesses and even people with disabilities, to actually identify what are the key issues for them. And this afternoon we're going to have a presentation from Rod Sims at the ACCC, because obviously a lot of the decisions that get made by that regulator are core to affordability going forward. And tomorrow we've got the telcos coming along, and we've been collecting a garden of ideas, we've been calling it, that we're going to present to the telcos tomorrow and see if they can give us some idea about whether they think these are great ideas or whether they have other ideas as to how the affordability nexus could actually be solved.
And did you have success with previous conferences where you presented ideas to telcos and they've taken them up?
Look, we've had previous conferences where we've really been able to influence the policy debate and also products going forward. So one great example was a couple of years ago we had a conference called M-Enabling, which was all about using mobile technology to get people with disabilities and seniors more connected. And as a result of that, there have been a number of new products and also a number of new initiatives, including procurement for ICT that the government is now encouraging more accessible equipment be procured by government agencies. So,
and we're going to have a chat to somebody else in a moment, but there's also the 2015 accessibility apps, which the winners will be announced tonight, and that's obviously stemmed from part of that too.
Yes, so exactly. That was announced. That was our first year that we announced we would do the challenge, and now we're into our second year of announcing winners. And it's quite exciting for us. It's obviously the app developer marketplace in Australia is really just in its early days, and it's still growing and competing very much with the rest of the world. And from our perspective, we think as far as accessible apps, we could actually be real world leaders and actually show the rest of the world how it could be done better.
Now, I always like to change gears as we get to the end, towards the end of the interview, just simply to ask if you could share the best piece of advice that you've ever received to help you get you where you are today.
Well, I think one of the best pieces of advice somebody said to me once was to make sure that you always acknowledge the people that helped you get there, and make sure you say thank you. And it's a simple thing, but thank you means a lot to people, and so that's something I always try to remember.
Great advice. So what do you think the Australian telecommunications landscape will look like over the next 5 to 10 years, and how will ACCAN's role evolve in helping to shape that?
So obviously we're seeing a massive shift in the use, once people get online, what are they doing with things? So there's more discussion now about content and copyright. For example, restrictions on services because perhaps people have been accused of illegal downloading mean that their service will be removed. That's a big concern to us. Obviously apps, how they'll develop, and also that our reliance will be less on the pipes and the network providers actually providing the services, but the over-the-top providers that we're actually going to be accessing. So, if you talk to young people today, it's no longer about Facebook because all their oldies are on Facebook. It's now about Snapchat, Instagram. And so, we're going to see more of that, and it'll be fascinating to see where that all goes. But, of course, that means that as consumer representatives, we have to keep with the times. But ultimately, the same issues come up time and time again. Do people get the right information about the services they're signing up to? Are they safe? And also, can they complain, and who do they complain to, and will they get redress? So these are the sort of issues that come up time and time again. Am I paying a price that's good value for money? And those things never change.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So any final messages for not just iTWire viewers and readers and Australians, but also anyone in government and the comm space watching?
Well, ultimately, I think what we really do need to see is that the national broadband network isn't just rolled out for the sake of it, and we're not just counting how many houses we're going past, but how inclusive are we being along the way, and are we bringing everybody on the journey? And so there has to be a lot more focus on digital literacy, and there also has to be a lot more focus on making sure that we're not just focusing on how many gigabits are our particular plans, but what are we actually doing with them, and are those affordable plans that people are all going to be able to adopt and use.
Teresa, thank you very much, and best of luck with the rest of the conference.
You're welcome.
Thank you.